Hello, I'm Dr Jodi Richardson, and you're listening to, well, Hello Anxiety, a podcast where we end the struggle with anxiety and build our toolkit of practical skills to thrive. Do you ever find yourself making the bed in the morning or simply getting up, looking at the clock and counting just how many hours there are in between getting out of bed now and putting your head back on the pillow that evening? I've done that many times, many more times when my children were very young. I've been through the absolute sleep torture of feeding 3 hourly round the clock. Anyone who's a parent understands the challenges of not having the sleep, the amount of sleep we need. And I think for us as parents, we might notice that we want to hit the hay earlier than some of our kids do these days, is certainly what's happening here in my house. When I really was working on my own mental health, I really understood the profound positive impact that quality and quantity of sleep has on my mental health and my happiness. And so it's absolutely something I prioritise, despite the urge to stay up late when everyone else goes to bed, which still happens on occasion. But even for those of us who are getting enough sleep, we don't always get the quality of sleep that we need. We don't always wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated, clear-headed, productive, and ready for the day ahead. Sleep is such a cornerstone for our mental health and our well-being, but it doesn't come easy for everyone. And as our guest today wrote in the blurb for his brand new book, it's one thing to know the problem, it's another to fix it. Joining me today is Dr Stan Rodski. He is a neuroscientist, a researcher, presenter, author. His second neuroscience book, his latest book, is The Neuroscience of Excellent Sleep. So, Dr Stan Rodski, thank you for joining us here on, well, Hello Anxiety.
Pleasure, Jodi, and love to be here. Hopefully I won't put you to sleep.
I know.
Or your audience.
Oh, no, I know. Look, it's one of those things, isn't it, when we start to talk about sleep, all we can think about is putting our heads back on that pillow because so many people are sleep deprived. And I really wonder what was at the heart of you dedicating your second neuroscience book to this very, very important topic.
Well, I guess at the core, the first one was about mindfulness and the importance of being able to relax our system. And the backdrop to it always was the issue of sleep. So sleep was always going to be the second book in the series. And it was really about the fact that, quite seriously, I just got sick of the chicken and egg of sleep and mental health. I mean, at the end of the day, they're so interrelated, multi-directional. My colleagues and I had probably spent 30 or 40 years trying to work out the chicken and the egg in that one, but it was irrelevant. It actually was quite obviously irrelevant. We're in a man-made 24-hour cycle, but let's just call it day and night, whatever number of hours we've decided to put in there, which, by the way, is not quite right in terms of our biology, but that's a different story to go in. But the reality of it is that our bookends are night and day. The Germans call it the Zeitgeber. Isn't it always good Germans use great words?
They do,
It
they do.
feels more something.
Yes.
But light and day. And our system literally reacts to those bookends. And it reacts in very, very important ways in which if we don't follow what it needs to do, then we are in a perpetuating cycle of problems. And that is a reality for us. So that was the reason for the book. And I put into the title Excellent Sleep. And I did that deliberately because I didn't want to write about something that was, again, for insomniacs or people at one end of the spectrum. There is a real need for many of us just to improve our sleep. And this sense of excellence, for me, it's a journey. It's good to be stopping just complaining about it sometimes or not, but doing something about it,
Mm.
actually getting better at it. And the better you get at it, the better you find your general mental health and an associated number of other things. But there is some neuroscience to it, which is the important part here. And I think it's quite a popular topic. So we're able to sort of go, well, what can we glisten from this? How can we gain something from knowing that we're in an inbuilt system that somehow managed to fit in a number of hours to do certain things, whether we like it or not. It's not I only sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. How good am I? Or I'm going to be dead soon, so why don't I fit in as much as I can? And as I often say to them, well, you will be dead soon. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy you've now given yourself in that process. There are always these people who sleep's just this thing in the way, but it's part of our performance. It's part of how well we do.
Why is sleep so critical, not only to our mental health, but also our physical health? Because what you've just said is so true. It's been a badge of honor for people. Oh, I only have to have 4 hours sleep. It's like win the morning, start the day at 4 or 5 a.m. and look how much you get done. I mean, that's a nightmare. I remember when my babies would wake up in the morning and you'd literally be up and on. And by 9 a.m., you would honestly feel like you'd done a full day's work and ready to hit the hay again. But like you say, it genuinely and powerfully affects not only our mental health, but our physical health and longevity as well. It's not something that is an inconvenience. It is one of the most powerful ways that we can protect ourselves to be more productive, to be more focused, to be more present, and to be able to live a really good quality of life. So, what is the neuroscience of sleep? What can you share with us?
Well, it only took a whole book, but I'll give it a sentence or
Thank
two.
you. I love it.
No problems at all. No. Look, at the core of it, the brain needs to regenerate itself. It takes a certain number of hours in general, because every brain is different, but in general, 7.5 hours will push us through what we call 5 cycles of circadian rhythm, 90-minute cycles. 5 of those, if you do the math, add up to 450 minutes or 7.5 hours. That's what we need to actually go through a process in which the brain will literally remove the rubbish. It attacks cells called myelin cells, which have wrapped themselves around all of the memories of the day that we've had, and it removes them. It needs those cycles, that washing cycle, if you like, through the night. Now, they come labelled. There are parts of all of that which are called REM and non-REM sleep cycles, the REM being the rapid eye movement and the non-rapid eye movement cycles. And at its height in rapid eye movement, it locks us down. We can't act it out. We're dreaming. Dreaming occurs in all of them. There's a lot of literature that says dreaming only happens here and there, but the dreaming's just part of the brain. To use the analogy of the washing machine again, the washing's in there and it's moving about, and if you lift the lid on it at any stage, as we get to the top of one of the cycles, we wake up. Each time we get to the top of one of those cycles, we wake up just a little bit. And if our bladder's full, we head for the toilet.
Yes.
If it's not full, we head back down into deep sleep again. And the whole process of actually washing the system out, regenerating it, removing myelin cells. The more sleep you get, the more the ability for the brain to remember what you tried to remember during the day or learn. And if we head for children, the data shows us, for example, with sleep, how important is sleep to children? It is so important. And yet, compared to 30 years ago, there are a number of studies now confirming this. On average, children sleep 1 hour less than 30 years ago.
Wow.
1 hour.
Mm,
Now, they need at least 6 cycles.
right.
because their brain's growing.
Yes.
They're learning everything. A baby sleeps all the time, nearly all of the time, because it's learning. Everything is new. The brain is capturing everything. But we, with our children, unfortunately, we blame all sorts of things for this. But in reality, the neurology of all of this is that 1 hour, which I think is guilt rather than the favourite of saying, well, it's the laptops or the iPads or the phones. It's that two parents now work. 30 years ago, maybe two, occasionally it was one. And one was always there to go, well, I've been with them long enough today, that's time for bed.
Yes.
But today, look, your listeners, those who've got children and both of you are working and might include you, there is a certain guilt that you haven't seen them all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all I want to do is give them a little bit more quality time, and you give them another hour. And just think about the other side of that. When they get to the classroom, they're now missed an hour the night before, they've missed another hour tonight, they've missed another hour. And no wonder that one of the very interesting studies I saw recently was how many teachers find children asleep on the desk. They fall asleep.
Yeah.
Or could there be some relationship to some of the mental conditions that we now talk about all the time related to children? Why have they suddenly popped up? Surely it can't be definitional. Surely it can't have been just that we didn't recognise it 30 years ago. I know I worked as a psychologist for 35 years. Children never complained about sleep, only the parents. That to me is the neuroscience of it. That in a biological sense, it also increases the production of certain hormones, the DHEAs as we call them. The dehydrose is the master hormone in sleep, and it balances out the cortisols and the melatonins. There's a lot of regenerative processes going on in the brain that require night.
I'd love to know a little bit more, because you said that if we are sleeping and the washing cycles are occurring, and we need at least 5 cycles for us as adults, 6 at least for our children, that if that's happening, then it's washing away the myelin cells. And so I'd be really interested to know, what are the consequences of an accumulation of myelin cells when an individual is not getting the amount of sleep that they need?
The data shows us that behavioural and physiological issues occur. There's tiredness as part of that process, and there's an inability to focus are the two huge ones there, because the brain doesn't do judgment, it just does energy.
Right.
How much energy have I got and how much do I need to continue going through the day? I will close this down. I don't think it says it exactly that way, but you get the idea. It literally closes us down. And people would say to me, how is it that someone can actually fall asleep at the wheel and go off the road and die hitting a tree? How is that possible? Well, the answer is that the brain lives in the moment. And at that moment, unless it shut down, it decided it would die. It needed to keep the energy. It doesn't think ahead to what a tree might do to it. And similarly, I think in a neurological sense, the various hormones in the system that are being released are in reaction to lack of sleep. The lack of sleep means that you don't even have the right amount of melatonins in your system to begin with, and you have too much of the cortisol. It's a terrible mix that starts to occur, because during sleep, it is a very finely tuned process. A third of us put our head on the pillow and sleep so well. A third of us are in the middle between poor and good, and the people that we normally focus on are at the third at the end, the insomniacs that need medical attention. We're really depriving ourselves. We're accumulating a deficit, which is neurologically impacting us, particularly in concentration, focus, and attention, the big three, according to neuros like me.
When it comes to melatonin and serotonin, I wonder if you could give listeners a Neuroscience 101 on the relationship between the two and why we feel the way we feel when we are low on serotonin or low on melatonin. And I wonder if I could also pop a addition to this question is it a problem for people who are taking melatonin at night on a daily basis to really assist them with their sleep?
Well, let's start at the last part of that. Melatonin builds. So it builds from the moment you woke up this morning, daylight. You remember the bookend, bang, up she comes. And by that stage, it's now reacting with the environment to, in fact, start producing it. And it's producing it throughout the day. And in fact, that's why exercise is so good. Exercise during the day, helps that process of building it up. Exercise during the day also creates a lot of other hormones that will help us later to help us with the sleep. But sticking to the melatonin, it doesn't make sense to take it before you go to sleep. You should be doing a whole number of things that actually stimulate the melatonin. You can do that naturally. It's a situation in which it needs to build. The circadian cycle is a whole 24 hours, because that's our nominated process, day-night process in which it goes down and then back up again, getting us ready for sleep. And during that, of course, we have a process in which continually throughout the day, where our system is trying to balance, which we call homeostasis. And of course, homeostasis is that balanced state. And it's the balanced state between the cortisols and the serotonin. It's the hormones which are eliciting excitement and stimulation to our system versus the hormones which are relaxing us and bringing our system back the other way. When one goes too high, we get tension and anxiety. When the other gets too high, we can find ourselves in quite low moods, even depression. So the whole system is really bouncing itself around, trying to keep itself in balance. The brain during the sleep cycles is trying to adjust whatever accumulated debt or too much savings to ensure that we start the day in balance. And of course, as we get older or as things happen in our lives, we get a thing of, as you would know already, allostatic loads. And allostasis, of course, is what I call the little tree on the cliff edge on its side in the wind. It once grew straight, but the wind just kept pushing it over. It's still alive, but it's very close to the ground, which is the allostatic state. Sleep actually provides the basis of being able to, during the day, better balance our system. That's the mental health component, the neuroscience of actually being able to stay in balance, in homeostasis, to be mentally well as part of this process. And that main hormone, the DIA, the dihydroepiandrosterone, that's why we just call it DIA, to be operating correctly, and it is intimately related to the sleep function.
You ask most people, is sleep important for our mental health and wellbeing? And they would say yes. And I love that we're able to talk about some of the hormones and about the washing of the brain and the function of sleep and why we have this fogginess and inattention and this inability to concentrate if we are sleep deprived. And I really would love to draw on your expertise to help our listeners who are thinking, yes, all right, I understand why. I know it's important. I know how I feel if I don't get what I need. What can I do if I'm struggling? Because excellent sleep is something that so many of us would love to have as a part of our day-to-day experience. So what are some of the strategies? Because it's one thing, like you said, to know. It's another thing to be able to do something about it.
That idea of excellence was also the idea that there's quality and quantity. Sleep comes with both of those attached. The two are very important for getting this concept of excellence. So I guess I start this discussion around the things that can help, around thinking about it in those two ways, firstly, because just in terms of quality of sleep, the number one feature was making sure you have a good mattress.
Excellent. Yes.
And so many don't.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got a good mattress, but there are certainly a lot of other factors come into it. I separate them into, and I do this in the book, into 5 key areas. The first of those is the sleep environment.
Mm.
The second of those is being able to follow your biological clock. The third of those is keeping your body temperature low. The fourth of those is being able to relax your brain from your awake state to preparing for your sleep state, which is a relaxation phase, and to be realistic. I'm not talking to insomniacs here. I'm not talking to the ends of the spectrum. The people who sleep when they put their head on the pillow and always have aren't interested. The people who are at the other end of the spectrum have already heard all this stuff and nothing seems to work for them. They are the 5 key areas for me. And within those, there are a number of things you can do. But on getting enough, I go again into the circadian rhythm, into the Zeitgeber, as the Germans call it, the day and night. How can we go about making sure that we get the most we can? See, people thought, well, we only get the most we can out of our daylight hours and what we do. But the reality of it is, how can we get the most out of our night hours, out of our sleep hours, so that we get even more out of our daylight?
That's it. It's an
Because
investment.
we're actually built to function that way. We're not nocturnal.
No, that's right. And for those people, for listeners who might be robbing themselves of their sleep to try to boost that productivity, you're actually doing the opposite. You're actually reducing your productivity, your attention, your focus, your creativity, all of that.
Every cognitive measure we ever use in experiments, in research, in studies, we come back and we go for the big 3: concentration, attention, and focus, and you just measure it. Oh my goodness. The cramming nonsense, whether it's exams or whatever it is you're trying to do or you must do, the fact of the matter is you would have been far better off getting more
sleep, yes, than those extra 3 hours, like you say, with the laptop open, trying to study for the exam if you're a student or trying to finish a project.
But how do we do that?
So tell us.
Yeah, but how do we do that? I'm wide awake now. It's 11:45 at night. I'm still wide awake. You know, Stan, what am I supposed to do
All
here?
right, tell us, go.
Well, how many people associate bed with their opportunity to now open their laptop, put it on their lap while they're sitting in bed, while they're talking to their partner or whatever they're doing? But bed loses its association with sleep. And the brain is a pattern maker. It looks for all sorts of patterns and associations to tell it what to do. And if it relates bed to some, besides the obvious activities of sleep and other things, but they're okay.
Yeah.
But if you associate it with other things, that's a poor neurological construction in terms of the brain. It's not behavioural, it's just purely a neurological construction. I associate bed with sleep.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to encourage, because then you will be sitting there at 11:45 with your laptop still on your lap saying, oh, I don't feel sleepy.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So that's probably one of the big important ones for me. Also, taking the clock out of the equation. Clocks in bedrooms are a poor idea. shut it off. If it's your phone, make sure you can't see it. Don't have it blinking at you or looking at you. If you're worried about not waking on time, then put a soft alarm on, not a loud one. Because the brain will actually, it doesn't do it any good. It starts to worry about a loud alarm. Which is interesting, isn't it? That it would start to do that, but it doesn't like that sort of noise to suddenly come into the process. Fluids 2 hours before bed, no, because remember you're going to wake up at least 5 times through the night, only just a little bit. So most of the time you're not even aware of it. But if you have fluids, you drink too much before bed, you will get up and go to the toilet. I can't tell you the number of people over the years I've seen who say, well, I'm always up going to the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute, chicken and egg again? What? You happen to be awake, so why don't I go to the toilet? Or did you really wake up because you had to go to the toilet? Well, you did because you had to empty your bladder. They rarely say to me there was nothing there as part of that process. And of course, the environment also is about light and about noise. And sometimes these things are challenges that you can't get around easily. But there are answers. There are eye masks, there's white noise, things that we can put into a room to deal with street sounds or birds or marsupials or whatever else that seem to get under our skin in that process. And of course, humidifiers are good news too.
Okay.
Well, because they set up another cue for the environment and also better air.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
A humidifier is an excellent idea.
And what about the biological clock?
Yes. So don't lie down during the day. Again, it's such a cue for the brain. If you lie down, that should be in bed to go to sleep. So the biological clock is set with cues like night and day. So we have to maintain regular schedules because we're not strictly, it's dark bed.
Yes, that's right.
And as soon as when we're up with the birds, we don't operate that way anymore, even though part of our brain, obviously our deep limbic system, which is our old brain, it's got a lot of that stuff sort of set in there, but we stay awake longer. We have lights. We have ways to stay alert and functioning in the dark as part of that process. So complete darkness. And I find the biggest one is set yourself up so that when you do wake, make sure you get plenty of light.
That'll help break down the melatonin, any residual melatonin. Yes.
Correct. Remember, they're the bookends, night and light. Dark and light, bookends. So wake up, show your brain that is when you're awake. It's not a matter of turning over and trying to get the light out of the room and stay asleep longer. Particularly the students, for example, I find they go to bed at 1 in the morning and they get up at 7. And I say, so how much time does that leave you to sleep? Well, that's 6 hours. How are you going to get 7.5?
Almost working backwards. If you need to be up at 7 because you've got to get the bus to school or you've got to get in the car, then you've got to work backwards to get to go, right, this is how many hours I at least need 7.5. Children need 9.
We need 5 90-minute cycles to ensure our brain replenishes itself, rejuvenates, and sets our hormones up for all of the things we need to do during the day. It is not just this infantile thing that we did as babies that we seem to not be able to shed as adults.
It's not an inconvenience.
Really? Please, can we grow up? On the body temperature side, our body temperature drops when we sleep. We need to ensure that we have a room that's reasonably ventilated or humidified, and it needs to be cool. It is such an important aspect, our body temperature in that way. And what we eat and drink and all of these things, see, food in our system, if it's in there and it's only a couple of hours in, it's still processing, and it increases our body temperature. Your body wants to drop 0.6 or so, 0.4 to 0.6 in general, but it can't because it's working so hard on all the food you've eaten or the sugars you've had. The pancreas is full. Insulin is driving into your system. Up goes the temperature.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We're not meant to be digesting when we're sleeping. There are other more important things to do.
Correct. Proteins increase the acids. Acid breakdown is a major temperature increasing function in our body in that process. Same with fatty foods, increased acid, increased work on the system. So we just got to be a little bit clever about, firstly, identify, if I'm going to get up at 7 and I need to fit in 7.5, and I say 7.5 because I think that's very achievable for everyone. Don't have that full stomach. Don't have that fatty food. Don't go the proteins. Obviously, coffee, alcohol, smoking in moderation. Often people say, oh, I have coffee any time of the night, I sleep anyway. And then I ask the question, but do you sleep anyway? And the answer is usually yes. If you ask someone who has problems sleeping or sometimes has problems sleeping, coffee is always a player in the process.
That's it. I remember, I think they laughed at me when I was out with my girlfriends one night and we all decided we wanted to have an espresso martini. And I asked for a decaf.
Really?
And I thought that was a perfectly reasonable request. Decaf coffee, enjoy the cocktail. And they were like, no, we can't do that. And I was like, I didn't understand quite why, but my friends thought it was ridiculous.
Well, at least we're having the milk, which is, of course, a tryptophan, and tryptophans induce sleep. Children who present in hospital, number one therapy technique for a child with night terrors presenting in hospital is milk.
Oh my gosh, the old warm cup of milk before bed, hey? Not just a wives' tale.
Well, it is a wives' tale, but it was by experience they learned it. By science, we can actually prove it.
That's awesome. One of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is number 4, which is about relaxing the brain, moving our attention off the worries of the day or off work or away from anything that's troubling us. And I'd really love for you to share an exercise or two that might help, when we are lying in bed and like, oh, can't stop thinking about something, what can I do?
The mental processing of issues is an interesting, because they're on our mind. The first cycle of our circadian rhythm is quite a big one, but it's interesting. It's also the one in which, in experiments, shows that if you're woken up after that first cycle and you have an issue or problem on your mind at the beginning of it, it's the most likely time in which you will come up with a creative answer.
Isn't it just?
So sleep actually will bring you an answer. If you can get a good sleep, then you will get some answers in the morning when you wake up, but use a general therapeutic technique of write the issue down and don't think about it until the morning. We need to quieten down the brain. And to me, there are 3 levels at a neurological level that we've shown work here. The first of them is to introduce the brain into that slower wave pattern. Teaching breathing, teaching relaxation techniques, teaching mindfulness techniques as well. They're all about ensuring the brain moves from beta waves, which is active, engaged. You and I are in beta at the moment, but in alpha, we're in front of the TV, the kids are in bed, you've got your warm socks on, you've got your cup of herbal tea and you're just watching the TV and the world's just washing over you. That's alpha. That's what we want just before we go to sleep, because after alpha, it's going to dive into theta and delta as well, which is all part of the sleep cycle, but it's how to get into that. Well, one of those tricks, of course, is to take things and just jot them down, get them out of your mind, but also to breathe. And HRV-based breathing, which is heart rate variation type breathing, is quick breath in but very slow breath out. The greater the heart rate variation, the more relaxed you are. The less variation, the more tense you are. And that's associated with those brain waves. You and I offline beforehand talked about the colouring books that I've produced over the years. And that came out of my days in doing therapy and doing neuroscience and all the rest of it. And it was quite clear that for some people, they need to have busy hands to actually help them relax. And colouring between the lines can have that same effect. And if you don't fall asleep because you're reading, or you don't fall asleep in your normal pattern, that can be a good way to help on top of the breathing or the relaxation techniques or any other mindfulness techniques that are used. And you can use certain colours that can help that as well. And they are effective and they are proven to work. And if that doesn't work, you can even go to the next level, which is to introduce these brain waves via sound. Can actually encourage a certain brainwave, a sleeping brainwave, and that's another level. So you can do relaxation breathing, you can do colouring, and then you can use sound type sciences, which I talk about in the book. You've got to get the brain into alpha, and obviously not going to bed with some, did you pay the bill?
Yeah, that's it. That's the conversations that Peter asked me something the other night, and I said, now's not the time, because I was so relaxed. I was totally in alpha waves, and I was just,
yeah. Did you pay the gas
it's just
bill?
like, happy to chat about this, just not now. Yes.
Yeah. So it is very relational to relationship, the whole social order of our lives. All of these things, obviously, the better they are, the better we sleep.
That's exactly right.
There's no doubt about that. But remembering, it's bi-directional. It's not just one leads to the other. They each lead to each other.
Yes.
And of course, my fifth point there, which is relax about it all. Be realistic. Sometimes there's reasons why you can't get enough sleep that night, or you know that you're going to have to change this, because sometimes the medicine's a little bit bitter. I'll say, do you want to change your internal clock? Yes. Well, then no matter that you're still sleepy at 7 o'clock and you have the time to stay in bed, get up anyway. Your brain will soon learn to put you to sleep earlier.
Yes.
If you always get up at the right time.
That's right.
But if you let it expand at one end, it's a very quick learner, the brain, a very quick learner. If it knows you're going to get up at 6 o'clock no matter what, your biological clock will adjust.
It will, as no matter how tired you are, if you can do that, you will reset your circadian rhythm, and then you'll be tired at the appropriate time, and you'll have the
Now, I love that concept of resetting.
Yes. Stan, I know that you have to part ways with us. I thank you for sharing your learnings through your research and through the work that you do as a neuroscientist and a researcher and an educator yourself and an author, of course. How can people connect with you, and where is the book available?
Yeah, look, the book's available, well, as they say, in all good bookstores, and happily it's going gangbusters now in the US, and it's just been released in the UK as well. So you can get it in all bookstores or online, all the online shops. They just have to put in my name in the process, and they can get in touch with me at my website, which is Mind Peak Performance, and they can see some of the research, they can see these tools and some of these technologies that we're using to help people get better.
Oh, how brilliant. How brilliant. Well, thank you for sharing just some of your wealth of wisdom with us here today. I'm very grateful for you and for your time.
Go sleep.
It's a great way to finish. Thank you, Stan. And thank you, listeners. Thank you so much. I hope that this episode will make the difference for you and help you to think differently about your sleep, help you to prioritize it, and help you to know exactly what you can do to really maximize both the quality and the quantity. Thank you for joining me, and I will look forward to being back with you again next week. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a review. To keep the conversation going, I'd love you to join me over on Instagram. You'll find me at Dr Jodi Richardson. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 5-day mini email course, Calm Your Anxious Brain, then jump over to my website, drjodirichardson.com, and you can sign up down the bottom. I've really enjoyed having your company. Thanks so much. See you next time.